Hi, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Mirror's Edge Catalyst on the PlayStation 4, also available on the PC and the Xbox One. This is the prequel slash reboot. I don't know where the reboot comes in because it sure feels more like a prequel to me of the original Mirror's Edge. This takes place in an open world, whereas the original Mirror's Edge was more level based and had like cutscenes in between that were very comic book style. I would also suggest, if you plan on to play this game, that if you like comics, to definitely pick up the 5 or 6 issue comic book series. It actually really helps understanding what's going on in the beginning of the game, because you might wonder why, like, when you first start out, you're getting out of jail and stuff. The comic explains all of that. If not, if you're not into reading comics and you're interested in the story of this game, there's probably a website that covers all that stuff. But I always encourage you to check out the comics and stuff, because I'm personally a fan of comics. I'm slightly dyslexic, and it's a lot easier for me personally to read comics than to read novels, because when I read novels, I actually have to take an index card and make each line individual of like a paragraph. My English is awesome today, but part of that is because I feel like, even though I'm recording this by myself, like in front of a computer screen, like I feel like there's a bunch of people in front of me. So I'm sorry, I failed right there. You're supposed to jump at those pipes and swing around. So you have runner's vision, which instead of having like a icon like in a lot of these games, you actually have a color scheme of red to actually show you where you go, and every once in a while you'll see, like, it looks, I don't know what you would call it, there's like almost like a swirl of like red particles that kind of guide you in the right direction. This was actually in the middle of a mission where I left off. This runs on the Frostbite 3 engine. This game runs at 60 frames per second for the most part. Every once in a while it'll stutter a little bit, but the first Mirror's Edge was pretty clunky, where it ran on 30 frames per second, and I absolutely love this game. Now, people have been kind of polarized with the reviews of this game. Some people don't like the open world structure because they don't feel like the levels are as well designed. Some people don't like the side missions because they feel like it's filler. Some people don't like it that it doesn't have gunplay. Well, here's my take on it. I absolutely loved the first Mirror's Edge. Took me forever to beat it because I just kept on getting engulfed in other games. Doesn't mean it was a bad game or it wasn't good in any way. I just kept on getting sidetracked. But when I finally finished it, it felt like a very rewarding experience. Also, if you're curious, the original Mirror's Edge actually ran on the Unreal Engine 3, which is pretty incredible because, believe it or not, from what I read, like on Digital Foundry and the comparison websites there, you saw it swung around at that time. I'm not going to take out any of the deaths because, just like the original Mirror's Edge, there's a lot of trial and error, and I also know that I'm recording this for a video, so I'm probably going to fuck up anyway, but it's better than trying to do this while I'm playing and talk, because I probably would have fared much worse. But yeah, so the PlayStation 3 version actually had like better graphics in some aspects, which is pretty unheard of for an early Unreal Engine 3 PlayStation 3 game. So if you're on the fence, I mean, I would get whatever version of console you prefer to play on, but excuse me, if you're worried about the PlayStation 3 version sucking because it's an early PlayStation 3 game, a early PlayStation 3 port, because there's a lot of exclusive PlayStation 3 games that were absolutely fine. This is one of the actual better ports. Some may consider this the best port between the PS3 version of the first Mirror's Edge being the best port, which is kind of unheard of at that time. Later on, PlayStation 3 caught up. So this runs on the Frostbite Engine 3, so this is 60 frames per second. You obviously won't see it because my recorder only does 1080p at 30 frames per second. This runs at 900p, which isn't that huge of a difference. Some people nitpick and say that it is a huge difference between 1080p. I was playing on a 65-inch television, and I really couldn't tell the difference. I can tell the difference between 720p, which is what the Xbox One runs at, but if you're running through this game really fast, you're not really gonna stop and pay attention to everything, especially with the minimalistic, like bland design. So when you do have colors, everything like pops out, which I really like. It has its own unique feel. Part of the reason I think they took the shooting out, which wasn't anything special, the first game I wasn't even trying to win a trophy. I just didn't care to shoot the guns and stuff like that. The mechanics of the shooting were pretty abysmal and average. Here's the first time we get a grappling hook if you're interested. But anyway, I only used it like probably less than 5 times, so I could count the times that I used guns on one hand in a situation where I just didn't really want to feel like dealing with something, or I felt like the game was trying to encourage you to use guns, but they were pretty unsatisfying. And I almost feel like they threw in guns in the first game because they weren't sure how people were going to receive this game, and it almost seems like this game got the same kind of reception as the old game. And I really hope that this game sells enough and gets enough of a following so we can get more Mirror's Edge titles, because I really think it's unique and has something to offer. And as far as games that have parkour, I think this is the best, and I think that's kind of what the developers wanted to do, was to embrace the parkour element, and I think they did that extremely well, because I think what made the first Mirror's Edge shine, and even though I haven't finished this game, what makes this game shine is, despite me failing like a bunch of times, which you'll see, I still keep on going at it because it's still fun. It's like a roller coaster ride, and it's one of those games where, yeah, I guess it could be frustrating after like 20 fails or whatever, as anything would be naturally, but it's one of those things like, if you take a break off of it and then go back to it and play it again, it's not because of the game's mechanics that are hampering anything. It's just remembering how to do things. And you know, if you have quick enough reflexes and stuff like that, you don't really have to rely on memorization enough. But some levels, it's easier when you start to remember the layout. And since this is an open world, you start to figure out the city around you, which I think is kind of cool. So you start to figure out ways around things, or quicker ways to get through stuff. And even the game tells you, like, even though they have this runner's vision thing that's telling you to go a certain way, sometimes there's shortcuts that the game doesn't always tell you how to do. And there's been instances where I thought I got lost and I ended up getting somewhere quicker because I took a shortcut and didn't even realize it. And it's kind of cool. So as you learn the city, you learn faster routes and stuff like that. There is a multiplayer aspect, and I believe it has more to do with time travels and stuff like that. Time trials, not time travels. There's no DeLorean or TARDIS or anything like that. But yeah, there's a multiplayer aspect. I haven't messed with it much. I haven't put a whole lot of hours into this game. At maximum, I've probably played this game maybe 2 hours at the most. There's been a lot of games I've been trying to finish in a timely manner, and I just really liked this game and wanted to play it. I actually ordered it months ahead of time because I knew I had to have this game, especially I actually finished Mirror's Edge this year, even though I really liked the game, but actually finish it took a long time. And after I finished it, like in the beginning of this year, I was like, I gotta play the sequel. And after seeing the trailers and how nice this looks, it very much keeps up with just the whites and blues and yellows, and then wherever you have to go is highlighted in red. But it just looks really nice and it flows really well. And like I said, every once in a while you'll notice the frame rate dips under 60, but it's not gonna break you. The rest of this video is pretty much me trying to do this little speed run to bring these spices, but I never succeed. Spoiler alert, not that you would expect anything less from me. But there's obviously a quicker way to do this, and I'm still kind of new to the game, and going on and playing other games, especially when I was recording several videos in a row, so I didn't really get to spend as much time as I would like to on this game, so I could bring you video game videos in a timely manner. So I stopped the game and kind of have to relearn the mechanics, and that's sort of what's happening here. So yeah, even though I'm dying on this constantly, or failing, or whatever, I didn't really die. There's a couple of times I think that I died on this video, but it's still fun to try it and perfect your run and stuff like that, and it's just a more pure experience of the first game, which I really think they just wanted to do, but they were kind of afraid with, I don't know, what was out at the time. I know Call of Duty was starting to gain popularity, and first-person shooters was a big thing, so having a first-person game that mostly has to do with platforming and sometimes combat, which is never really ever done that well in most games. Like, usually when you have platforming in a first-person shooter, like, if I had to think of one offhand, I would probably think Half-Life, the first one. Those sections can be extremely frustrating. Half-Life 2 is a masterpiece. I won't mention that in any way of being disappointing. But Half-Life 1, for instance, had a lot of platforming, or the original Turok, that was pretty terrible, where you had to jump on stuff. But it was so refined in this game, and to be able to run and do it and really do it fast, it's just breathtaking, and that sounds way more intense than it actually is, because it's just a video game, but it's just really satisfying. And I think if you're a fan of the original Mirror's Edge, like, you're really gonna appreciate this. If you were just okay with it, you might not like it. You might want to play a game that has guns in it. There is a fighting system. It's pretty simple. Triangle's the light attacks. Triangle's actually the heavy attack, and square's the light attack. And depending on which direction you push the analog stick, you'll attack a different way. Like, if you attack somebody by holding the analog stick left, if you hear a jingle, that's my cat. She's always, I guess because I'm not paying attention to her, or I'm focusing on something else, she starts to get hyperactive. It's like having a toddler around. But anyway, if you hold the analog stick in any particular direction, like, she'll do something different. Like, if you hold left on the analog stick or right, she's gonna shove the bad guys. So you can shove the bad guys. You can shove your opponent, like, into each other if somebody else is standing against them, or shove them off a cliff. Or if you're ducking, you can do like a swiping kick, and depending on the strong or low attack, your attack's gonna be different. And you got to kind of switch it up, because the AI kind of adapts to whatever attacks that you're doing, and depending on what type of enemy that you're fighting. Also, on the bottom left of the screen, you'll see like this focus meter. If you hold R2, it charges up, and when it's charged up all the way, like here, it's sort of charged up like that. Like, when you're getting fired at with a gun, you actually can avoid bullets and stuff like that. It's very Matrixy without the guns. Was it a good decision to take out the guns? Well, if they kept the same mechanics, yeah, it was a good decision. But if they made the mechanics more like Call of Duty, then I also feel like it would have slowed down the pace of the game, and I feel like the purpose of this game is to be really fast and almost feel like a roller coaster. So if you had like Call of Duty or Battlefield modern first-person shooter mechanics with a gun, you would be behind something, ducking and cover, and I think it would ruin the momentum of this game. And I think this is probably what the developers wanted from the beginning. And as far as story goes, the comic book does help, but I feel like the Mirror's Edge franchise was never about deep storytelling. I think the whole dystopian future and all this shit, and Big Brother's watching kind of idea and all that kind of common futuristic themes and the very plain buildings and stuff like that. I think that that's all cool and great and everything, and you're trying to free people in some way. You're basically like a courier or whatever, just helping people, but you're helping people that are in high places and stuff like that. I don't know the full story of this game. I'm kind of going by the second game, which has to do with more with stopping it, where this is just kind of surviving through it, which I think, since this is a prequel, it kind of leads into the next game. So I hope this series continues. This is more about parkour than storytelling, and if you like the first game, you'll like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're all doing well. Take care, and check this out.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe! Thanks for watching! If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe! Thanks for watching!